Well, hello there, Retro PC Durham. It's Chris here with another video. We have this HP. We've got a G6 laptop here, and this one was actually pretty easy to work on, and I'll tell you why in a second. So here we take a look at our nice, chromey plastic top here. Side number one here, we've got our USB port, power port, Kensington lock, and a optical drive. On the front here, we've got some front-firing stereo Altec Lansing speakers, which, aren't that great because they're laptop speakers, but it is what it is. So this side, we've got some indicators for power and hard drive access, SD card, audio cards, USB, HDMI, and VGA outputs, an Ethernet port, and then some venting for cooling. Flip onto the bottom here, and we've got our panel here to remove our underneath stuff, and then we've got this battery here, which we can show how much we've got juice-wise. This battery actually came off of another G6 that I've had sitting around for a while that doesn't work at all, and I've tried to repair a couple times and been unsuccessful. So I swapped it over from the smaller battery that this one came with. We take a look inside the panel here. We've got our CMOS battery down here. We've got our hard disk drive, pair of SODIMMs, and then our Wi-Fi card. Not much room inside for any additional expansion on this system. It's pretty bare bones in terms of what you're able to actually connect inside of it. So we'll clip this back on, and we will take a look topside at why this system is actually was pretty easy to work with if you have any experience with these Pavilion G6, and that's your answer right there why I had very little trouble with it. Because it's got an Intel Core i processor in it instead of the crappy AMD S1G X processors that so many of these other G6 models have been plagued with. That it's between the processor, the system board, the cheap chipset, stuff just dies on them. And it's, I'm not going to blame AMD. It's actually probably more the HP's fault for putting crappy low quality parts paired with that processor. Whereas with an Intel, they were using pretty standard parts. And again, it also comes down to the fact that even at this time, you were maybe selling 10-to-1 volumes of Intel-based systems to AMD-based systems. So the cost to manufacture was a lot lower on the AMDs to be able to put better quality parts in. So to save costs on the AMDs that you were going to sell a lot less of, you got to use cheap parts, and they died a lot. So I mean, I've gone through at least half a dozen of these Pavilion G6s that have AMD-based boards in them, and none of them work properly. And then I get this one here, works perfectly. So, but then I go, I've got a small sample size, so it could just be me. Keyboard's pretty, crappy. I hate the HP's design here of having this touchpad where it's just like part of the panel here, so it's not replaceable. At least they put this grooves on here so you can actually tell when you've gone on or off the touchpad, and pretty chintzy buttons as well. And then screen-wise, we've got a pretty generic screen. It does have a built-in webcam though. So let's get the camera realigned. We'll get this thing booted up and take a look and see how it handles Windows 10. Okay, I'm gonna hit the power button, and we'll start our boot sequence. Booting off of a spinning disk, so there will be a small amount of time that would be a non-issue if we were using an SSD drive, but it's okay, it's bearable. Again, for a computer that's going to be used for pretty basic computing. This is going to be a kid who needs to do homeschooling. They could be, in elementary school, they could even be possibly in high school, and just need to get someone to help them out with something. So you don't need a super powerful machine to be able to handle that. But at the same time, it does need to at least be able to handle the requirements of a normal Windows 10 operating environment. So having a minimum dual core processor, 4 gig of RAM, kind of important. If you've watched any of my other videos, you've seen that I've gotten Windows 10 running on a single core processor before with 2 gig of RAM. It runs really slow, but it still does work. But again, my ideal my ideal system specifications is a dual core or better processor and 4 gig of RAM to be able to handle the Windows environment. Okay, let's take a look at our specs. We're going to run hardware info first, and we can take a look at all the good numbers that are on there for us to see. Okay, taking a look at specs here, we have this Core i3 370M. That's a 2-core, 4-threaded processor, and pretty decent in terms of specifications there. We're running at, you know, around 2.4 gigahertz, I think, is what it's trying to push to, although it's not going to run that high all the time. We have 4 gig of RAM installed in the system, so there's a pair of 2 gig DDR3 memory DIMMs in this, and then we've got a 500 gig Western Digital hard drive to go along with a DVD-R and CD rewriter on there. Graphics-wise, it is Intel HD integrated graphics, so it's going to be built onto the processor there. Obviously, you're not going to get a lot of performance out of that as a result, but again, it'll get the job done, and that's what's important. I will close up hardware info, and we'll move on now to just quickly check our screen resolution here, and this is a 1366 by 768 screen, so pretty crappy screen size in terms of resolution, but it is, I think, a 15-inch screen, so it's big enough to be able to fit stuff on it, even though it's not that great a resolution. Now let's go and check out our YouTube test here with CrabRave. I've got it all queued up here. I'm just going to make sure the volume isn't too loud on these wonderfully delicious Altec Lansing speakers, and we'll get this running now and see how it goes. I'm not seeing too much in the way of hesitation or hitching, so this looks like it might actually be a pretty good experience. Again, it's a 768p screen, which means 720p would be the proper resolution to run things at, but I am running it here at the 1080p just to see how well it can handle itself, because I'm pretty sure the Core i3 processor is going to be able to do the job pretty well, and in this case it is. We're only 2 frames dropped over 1,000 now, which definitely tells me that this system is fully capable of handling streaming video, which means any other type of web content, any type of web conferencing, office productivity, cloud apps is going to be no problem on a system like this, which is really good because that's what its primary use case is going to be. So I hope you enjoyed checking out this wonderful HP Pavilion G6 laptop that we've restored. It's going to get donated to charity and into the hands of somebody who needs it, and get them a chance to have access to technology that they wouldn't otherwise have. As always, I hope you are staying safe and healthy, and we'll catch you in the next one.